currently serves as the training and outreach specialist for the Elder and Dependent Adult Protection Team of San Mateo County. The organization is a collaboration between, how much, Ben?
Five, yeah.
Thank you.
But you gotta pay too.
Thank you. So,
Focus on the call.
so it's a collaboration between San Mateo County's Aging and Adult Services Division, District Attorney's Office, County Counsel's Office, and local law enforcement tasked with preventing and prosecuting elder and dependent adult abuse. Nicole joined EDAPT at the end of 2015 after a decade-long career with the California State Legislature, where she specialized in community relations, senior services, veterans, and health policy. She has a BA in political science from San Jose State and currently lives in San Mateo. So let's give a hand to Nicole Fernandez.
Can I get the PowerPoint up, please?
Yep, give me a minute.
Thank you. Awesome. So hi, I'm Nicole. I work for EDAPT, Elder and Dependent Adult Protection Team. I'm a resident of San Mateo, a long time, grew up in Belmont, so I'm really thrilled to be here tonight, this morning. I'd like to thank you guys for being a part of the new county initiative to prevent elder abuse. We don't talk enough about the common phenomenon of elder abuse. Elder and dependent adults are some of our most vulnerable residents, but we don't talk about the fact that many take advantage of relationships, benefits, and abuse that occurs on a regular basis. Last year, San Mateo County received approximately 1,500 allegations or reports of abuse in San Mateo here, and that number is on the rise. Between the year that, in the year prior to major outreach occurring and last year, calls to our TIES line, our 800 number, which is the entry point for all adult abuse reports or services provided by Aging and Adult Services, the number of phone calls went up 50%. So obviously elder and dependent adult abuse is an ongoing issue here in San Mateo County. So let's define the populations we're talking about today. Elders are, according to California State Code, any resident of California over the age of 65. Do we have any elders in the room? Wear it with pride. Wear it with pride. You guys, we'll talk a little bit about the statistics, but we're all getting older. And dependent adults are folks between the ages of 18 and 64 that are unable to make decisions in their own best interest, or are unable to conduct normal activities that prevent harm or cannot protect themselves. Abuse of an elder or dependent adult, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth, include physical abuse, neglect, or basically anything that renders a person suffering from physical harm or mental anguish. And a caretaker is somebody who basically has custody or provides care for somebody who cannot take care of themselves. So right now, there are 40.1 million Americans over the age of currently living over the age of 65. They are the 13% of the population, and that number is only going up. If you look at this statistic right here, between years 2040 and 2050, it's estimated that there will be between 90 and 100 million Americans over the age of 65. That means that government and services and nonprofits and families need to prepare for what we call the silver tsunami. Additionally, we have a significant number of individuals with disabilities in San Mateo County. According to the census, 1 out of 5 Americans lives with some sort of disability, and we suspect that maybe 5,000 to 6,000 San Mateo County residents live with developmental disability. Dependent adults often have a relative or a friend who will come in and take care of their affairs. Some dependent adults tend to live in facilities, some live at home, some have assistance, and as a result of having someone who comes and caretakes, there's a lot of opportunities for abuse and for people taking advantage of folks. Anybody recognize this handsome devil?
Yeah.
Who is this fox?
Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney. He passed away a few years ago. Anybody have a favorite movie that he's in? All of them. National Velvet, Babes in Arms, those are my favorite. Mickey Rooney is America's most famous victim of elder abuse. He passed away a few years ago, and in the year before he died in his 80s, He testified in Congress about what it was like to be a victim of physical abuse and financial abuse. By the end of his life, he had a son who had taken all of his money, and he was living in the basement of another one of his children's homes, basically penniless. And he had a restraining order taken out on his wife, who had been physically abusing him because she was frustrated with him slowing down and not being able to take care of, provide her with the type of life she was accustomed to living as the wife of a movie star. I bring Mr. Rooney into the conversation because if it can happen to him, an Academy Award-winning famous person, it can happen to anybody. It can happen to your mother, it can happen to you, it can happen to a cousin, it can happen to your neighbor, it can happen to your favorite pew mate at church. I mean, it can really happen to anybody. So let's talk about the different types of elder abuse that exist. According to the National Center on Elder Abuse, there are 6 types. Physical abuse, which is what you would typically consider abuse. Hitting, kicking, pushing, punching, slapping, burning, anything that leaves a mark. Sexual abuse, which is engaging in a sexual act with an elder or dependent adult or with someone who cannot consent to participate in that sexual act. Right now there is an upswing of sexual abuse of seniors involving social media. Folks with dementia or Alzheimer's are being asked to say sexually suggestive things or being positioned in sexual ways by caretakers who think it's funny. And then they're posting it on social media like Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram. So if you see something like that in your newsfeed, not that you would, but if you do, please report that to Adult Protective Services or the police because it is crime. And there have been prosecutions as a result of those crimes. Emotional abuse is the next kind, harming someone's self-worth through bullying, scaring, name-calling, the silent treatment. All of those are emotional abuse. There's neglect, which is when someone cannot take care of themselves, so they have a caretaker come in to help them fulfill their basic tasks of daily living, and not providing a good quality of care when providing that caretaking. Abandonment is leaving an elder alone who cannot take care of themselves or no longer providing care to somebody who can't care for themselves once left alone. And the most common type of abuse here in San Mateo County, which is financial abuse, which is illegally misusing an elder's money, property, or assets. 1/4 of all of the cases that came into San Mateo County's Adult Protective Services last year involved some sort of financial abuse. So let's talk about who are the common abusers. Here are the 4 categories of top types of abusers from the National Institute on Justice. What percentage of this, who are the most common abusers? What is the highest percentage of?
Family members.
Very good. Y'all know your stuff. 90% of all elder abusers fall into the first 2 categories, family members and caregivers. As a result, elder abuse is one of the most underreported crimes in the nation because can you imagine how difficult it would be to call the police on someone you love or someone you depend on to get through your tasks of daily living? If you can't feed yourself or toilet yourself, what's going to happen when your caretaker's in jail and you can't even get to the shower or to the kitchen? The last 2 are scammers and thieves and some financial industry representatives who are not ethical. Here are some consequences of abuse, of elder abuse and dependent adult abuse. Decreased socialization. Once you've been abused, studies show that elders are less likely to go out, less likely to want to interact with people who could potentially take advantage of them again. Depression or self-neglect. Studies have also shown that victims of elder abuse, once they've fallen into a depression, they're harder to get out from. They feel guilty about having been abused, and they may just turn inward and can't take care of themselves. Guilt about having been taken advantage of. Low self-esteem. Physical injury. As we get older, it's harder to bounce back once you've broken a hip or broken an arm or been burned. And death often is a effect of abuse. So let's talk a little bit about what you can look for in loved ones, signs and symptoms. And if you see any of these, especially on a recurring basis, we encourage you to reach out to Adult Protective Services. The phone number for that is 1-800-675-8437, and I have some pamphlets that I forgot to hand out to you guys, so I will hand that out after I'm done with the phone number that talks a little bit more about elder abuse here in San Mateo County. But see, these are some common signs and symptoms. If you have a loved one who appears uncared for, if they used to present very cleanly, change their clothes on a regular basis, and suddenly the elder or the dependent adult in your life is not changing their clothes, they smell like urine, they aren't washing their clothes, their hair isn't done, that might be a sign that there's something, they haven't bathed, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If you have a loved one who has unexplained bruising or sores or burns and they don't want to talk about how they got it, perhaps they make up a nonsensical story to explain how they got it, or a changing story, that might be a sign that there's some abuse going on. If you have an elder in your life who is depressed or confused or agitated or afraid, particularly in the presence of a caregiver or someone who provides care for them, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If you have an elder who shows fear or anxiety around certain caregivers or household members, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If you have an elder who has a child who is, or a caregiver who is reliant on them for food, money, or shelter, if they rely on their parents' social security check in order to buy their own needs, or perhaps to pay for pay for drugs, or pay for gambling, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If there are major changes in an elder's appetite, or if there's weight gain or loss not related to an ongoing illness, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If you have someone who used to be able to do basic things like shop and get around and suddenly cannot do that, cannot take care of themselves, there might be a sign that they can't care for themselves anymore, or that there might be some abuse going on. If they have unusual activity in their bank accounts, if they're giving money away willy-nilly to their caretakers or their housekeepers, if they have unpaid bills or suddenly bills are going to a new address, if they can't buy food or the basics anymore, or pay for rent, pay their mortgage, if they suddenly can't afford other basic necessities, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If someone is isolating them, stopping them from enjoying the habits and small joys of a day that they typically enjoy, like going to church or seeing a loved one, if someone is stopping them from doing that, going to the grocery store, going to the park, restricting their access to loved ones or friends, or or the phone calls that they take, or the visits that they have in their home, or something like that, that might be a sign that there's something going on. Or if they have untreated chronic illness, if someone is stopping them from refilling medication, going to a doctor, treating an ongoing illness, that might be a sign that there's something going on. If they have a relative or a friend or a new professional coming out of the woodwork to have secret conversations with them about their financial plan, about their financial future, what's going to happen to their estate, the conversations may be secretive or suspicious, and they often warn them, don't talk to anybody but me, or try and turn them against other family members. That might be a sign that there's something going on, especially with financial abuse. There are lots of scams that are also occurring. We see a lot of our clients through Adult Protective Services being victims of scams, and these are some of the top 5 ones. Are there any of these that you're particularly interested in hearing about? Okay. So some of the most common ones that we're seeing in Adult Protective Services include Medicare and health insurance fraud, where some insurance agents are trying to sell Medicare supplemental products that are not useful to them. So we always encourage any individual to make sure you do your research before buying an insurance product. Call the Department of Insurance, make sure your insurance agent is good standing with the Department of Insurance and doesn't have any complaints against that. We encourage people concerning counterfeit prescription drugs. That's another big one here in San Mateo County because medication is just so darn expensive. Many people decide that they're going to buy their medication internationally, either from Mexico or maybe order it from Canada, or ask a friend who's going on vacation to a South American country to just pick up their blood pressure medication for them on the cheap. We've had clients who've had allergic reactions to medication because they thought it was one medication and it turned out not to be what they needed it to be. So we encourage you not to buy your medication from an international country, but if you have to, please make sure you go to your trusted pharmacist or a doctor to make sure you double check that the medication is what you need it to be. A big one is, of course, contractor fraud. We have a lot of people, contractors who go door to door to, or they scope out older folks who live alone and they offer to clean gutters or repair roofs or do other modernizations on a house, and they end up not completing the job. They're not licensed or insured or bonded, and end up taking thousands and thousands of dollars. So if you are going to have some work done on your house, or if you have a parent or a loved one who's going to do some work on their house, make sure that the contractor comes well recommended, is in good standing with the contractor state license board, and get lots of estimates. Telemarketing, don't pick up the phone unless you know who's on the other end of the phone call. I see you.
Do you have any way of, can we call you if we have that type of thing? Do you have any resources to take action against them?
Telemarketing?
Telemarketing or contractors and fraud and stuff?
Absolutely. We have lots. We can put you in touch with the contractor state license board. They can always take complaints if there's reports. And then we also have some just be aware, prevent, this kind of information that we try to pass out to our older folks, because I do a lot of these presentations to older folks themselves at senior centers and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
When you, if someone were to make a call because you suspected elder abuse, would that person be held anonymous? Or
You can report things confidentially, and all phone calls that come in to Adult Protective Services are 100% confidential. And the phone number is available 24 hours a day, and I'll give you the phone number at the end of the presentation. Another big scam that's hitting a lot of our older folks here in San Mateo County is the internet fraud / Microsoft Windows update scam, where someone will call them and say, we were just doing checks on some of our neighbors' computers, and we ran a test on your computer and it looks like you have a virus. If you hand over your checking account number or your credit card number to me right now, we'll make sure it gets fixed. And people are afraid of technology, especially older folks, so they're willing to hand over a number in order to get that fixed and their computer fixed, because they don't know any better. And so we try to encourage folks, don't believe anybody who calls, get your grandkid in, go to Best Buy. If you need to take care of, if you need to find someone you trust in order to fix your computer, but never hand over an important number like a credit card number or a checking account number or anything of that nature. Another big one is the grandparent scam. We had a woman on the coast side lose $100,000 to this scam, unfortunately. This is a scam that happens pretty frequently, where a young sounding person will call an older person and say, hi grandma, it's your grandchild. I am in jail in Mexico, in whatever country it may be. I got into a bar fight, and the judge here in Mexico says that if you don't wire $10,000 to the courts immediately, they're gonna put me in jail. I'm so ashamed. Mom and Dad don't know that I'm on vacation here. They told me not to come, but I came down here, I got drunk, I got in a fight, and I need you to wire me this money as soon as possible. Please help me, Grandma. And it sucks because it's playing on the emotions and the love that you have for your grandchild. And so we've had a lot of people who they want to save their grandchild, so they're going to do exactly what's been asked of them. They're going to go to the CVS or they're going to go to the Western Union and wire the money over. And unfortunately, we did have a woman on the coast side who actually ended up losing about $100,000 to scam, because she wired money over a couple of months and no one caught on to the fact that her grandchild happened to be in the military. He was abroad, and she thought that she was helping him because he sounded like her grandchild.
How about that reverse mortgage? I hear that's a pretty big scam.
Oh, yeah.
That's a huge one.
Payback.
Reverse mortgage, some reverse mortgages can be scams. Some reverse mortgages are useful for those in particular situations, and we just encourage you to do your research before engaging the services of a reverse mortgage specialist. So here are some tips to protect yourself and things that you can do. Investigating financial offers that come your way. Someone asks you to invest in their business or buy a timeshare or buy an insurance product. Do your research before you hand over your hard-earned money. Checking with the government agencies that license and bond those salespeople. Know that there's no such thing as a free lunch if a salesperson, I'm sure there's a lot of salespeople in this room, but if they have to buy you lunch in order to get you to buy their product, the product probably isn't that good. Don't explore alone. take a trusted friend or a family member if you're going to be like meeting a friend off Craigslist or online dating. However you meet people online, make sure you do it in a public place like a Starbucks. And if you're going to do a Craigslist transaction, do it in the parking lot of your local police department. And bring a cop to stand next to you when you do that Craigslist transaction. Daly City's pretty innovative. Have you guys heard about what Daly City did?
No.
They actually set up a whole section of their parking lot at the PD with lights and cameras. And so you can bring your Craigslist transactions there, but also divorced parents do custody handoffs there. And everything it's caught on camera and well lit. And there's a cop monitoring of the transactions. And you can actually have a cop come stand out there if you want with you.
Police, not cop, police.
Oh, I'm sorry, police officer.
Yeah.
Apologies.
These are sergeants.
Smart.
Yes. I understand that the new Supervisor Canup, is going to try and get this implemented countywide. So
Wow, that's good.
they're working on it.
That's good. Yeah.
Don't you guys know this? But don't give out your important numbers over the phone.
Yeah, only the old people get
Everybody gets those phone calls. My little 20-year-old sister actually ended up
Really?
handing over. She thought she was getting into a good work at home program, and it turned out to be a Craigslist scam. And she handed over her social security number because she thought she'd be able to make some extra money by working at home, and she didn't know any better. So it happens to everybody at every age. So don't hand out don't
Ever.
share important numbers over the phone. Social security, checking, credit card, all that good stuff. And never believe anybody who calls saying they're from a government agency, like IRS or courts or the San Mateo County court system. They're going to send you a letter. They're not going to call you. Hire an in-home caregiver through a reputable agency if you can. Don't pick up the phone unless you recognize the caller, and don't answer the door to someone you don't know unless they're the Girl Scouts selling their delicious cookies. Hey, we're in Girl Scout cookie time.
Right, that's true.
If you're a caretaker yourself, make sure that you take some time to take time for yourself. A lot of the abuse that occurs is a result of the stress that comes from being a caregiver, and being a caregiver is one of the hardest jobs in the world. I truly believe this. After seeing my mother having to taking care of my grandmother right now, I understand that it just drains you. So if you get tired or frustrated, just take 5 minutes for yourself. Practice a mindfulness exercise if that's up your alley. Have a relative on call to relieve you. And join a caregiver support group if you can. Reporting abuse allegations. If any of this sounds familiar and you think that you want to report something to Adult Protective Services, always talk to your loved one first. Don't judge them. Scammers are out there and abusers are out there, and their full-time job is trying to find ways to take advantage of these folks. So don't place blame. Know that money can be a difficult situation to talk about, especially if they've been taken advantage of, especially if you've had this conversation before. Maybe they've been scammed before. And report any abuse or scams to the police or to Adult Protective Services. And if you suspect something, please call us at the TIES line. We're open 24 hours a day. All our calls are confidential, and it's 1-800-675-8437. If the situation is an emergency, you can always call the police, 911. But know that we are a resource for you if you need to report an allegation of abuse, but also if you need resources or just to run a scenario by a social worker. And that is it. That's our phone number, and that is it. Thank you.
So I do reverse mortgages,
Okay.
probably.
Okay.
And from time to time, while I'm working with my clients, I get the feeling that they're not competent to be making this decision. Do you guys provide any kind of a fiduciary service to oversee these transactions? Because there's no playbook that says when you're in the middle of a deal, as a law officer, I'm required by law to do the law, I have no choice.
Right.
Okay, so is it okay to call you guys and bring you in?
Absolutely.
And to keep
We encourage you.
eyes
We
on the
encourage you to call us.
Because that's scary
We
more than anything
have, we have
else, yeah.
resources, and we will point them to some of our legal partners who might be able to provide the service that you're looking for. So please do call us and notify us when you do have that concern.
So recalling the Anna Nicole Smith abuse of maybe 15, 20 years ago, when she took advantage of that elderly guy, got all his money, you know?
Yep.
Is there any somebody around to protect us guys?
If you ever suspect that an older person is being abused, and that includes also a romantic relationship that may be romantic for financial
You
benefit.
didn't put that on your list,
Please-
that is another area.
Please, yeah, right, the romantic scam is not one of the ones I included.
Yeah, okay.
Please call us if you have concerns and we can see what we can do to
Okay,
assist.
'cause that's complicated.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.